Hello, everyone. Welcome to Property Development Australia, and we are on the business of property. We've got Kurtis McConkey from Nimble Property, and I'm really keen to have a chat here, Kurtis, because you have delivered a very unique townhouse product. You might not be able to see everyone, but they can see you on Facebook. So that's okay. If there's anyone that has questions, usually have a chat with me and I'll sort of shoot it back out to you. But we've got Richard here as well. So Rich, you can feel free to chime in with any questions. And today really is a bit of a meet and greet and to understand what Kurtis's vision is in terms of his property development, because you have completed most recently. And when did you complete this, your most recent project?
They were pretty much finished end of December, but we had practical completion handover in January. So yeah, it was an interesting project. But yeah, they were 7-star. 7 was the lowest. Some were higher than that, depending on where they sat in the development orientation. But all 7-star plus. We tried to get them to 99% off grid, so still grid connected, but enough solar and battery to pretty much generate and store all of their own energy.
So what is your vision for Nimble Property and your projects, Kurtis? Because obviously, you know, a lot of the question around building sustainable development is around, is it worth the extra cost?
Look, it's a really hard question to answer because I think many of us need to be pioneers. A lot of people can't really see the benefit of very sustainable. So sustainable materials plus, a long lifespan unit that inherently uses a lot less energy than was sort of used to create the unit, build the unit, but also a positive energy footprint as well. So you can put solar and battery and all these wonderful technologies that we have available to us. That's all okay when you're an existing homeowner and you're doing a return on investment. Oh, well, I put this much solar on and that's how much energy I generate and that's how much money I save. But when it comes to building a unit, it's really hard for people to go, well, if I add extra insulation, what does that do? And if I design it slightly more, northern orientation, or, take advantage of your block, it's just really hard for people to understand that and to conceptualize it. Fortunately for me, I come from a country where you must insulate, minus 10 degrees in winter. But there's this sort of paradigm that a lot of people in Australia say, well, it doesn't really get that cold. But the great thing with insulation is if it's hot outside and you cool your house down with air conditioning, it actually keeps the heat out as well as it keeps the heat in. So for me, it was trying to demonstrate and improve every development and basically show that we could build sustainable property, sell them, make a profit, deliver a good development. The most recent one in Yorkson Street is a good looking development, but we also managed to integrate $80,000 worth of solar and batteries, and probably $40,000 worth of efficiency improvements throughout the development, and it's still quite a profitable development. To be honest, the things that have impacted that development the most are a negative, poor property market and coronavirus. But even with those two, plus all the extra money we've spent on sustainability measures, it's still going to be probably a 15% profit on cost development, which for a small townhouse development is good. The next stage in that is hopefully a lot more people start to do it, and a lot of people start really truly understanding the value of living in a thermally efficient, energy positive development, and therefore the prices gradually creep up and there'll be a segregation, I guess, in the market of people building your bog standard compliant. This is what we have to do to make them compliant, and then you've put solar and battery and LEDs and extra insulation, and well, I will pay you that much money more because I know that my cost of living is going to be significantly less. And that hopefully, it's hard to basically take it on the chin and pay for it out of your own pocket and make less profit. But there is definitely a very good feeling about building the right property, not just building what, the cheapest thing you possibly can build with the cheapest builder, building good quality property that you can go and look at, 10 years later and say, I did that and we did all these things for the right reasons. So yeah, that's sort of the fundamentals behind it.
It would be good if you can. I know you've got some photos of your development. Can you just talk us through the site and how many townhouses, and I guess sort of the if you've got some photos to show us of how they look and what the features, sort of the sustainability features were included in them.
Sure. Let me just grab some pictures of the development, and then I can. Ooh, where are we? Wow. So we actually got quite a good site. So
Oh, wow.
this is Warner's Bay. That's Lake Macquarie. This main road here is King Street, which it's a 3-minute walk to the lake. There's some of the larger developments that are getting completed just now, and just there's a massive row of shops and Coles and all that sort of stuff. The site itself is 1,000 square meters, R3 zoned. We managed to get 5 townhouses on there, 2 3-bedroom front and back, and then we sandwiched 3 2-bedders in the middle. A lot of sites in this area typically will develop a lot of 2s or a few 3s, depending on what way you want to target the market. There's the other sort of orientation. So you can see the street is starting to become developed exclusively. Pretty much every house in that block is a R3. So Yorkshire Street, have a go. We actually were lucky with 47. We also got 45, but we had a perpetual option on it, and the lady wanted to move out, so I flicked it to a developer friend of mine, and they bought it. This sort of shows that you can see with the roof areas. So the front and back units are 3-bed, double garage, nice, large, generous houses. We sold both those off the plan, which we expected to do, got full asking price for those. And then the 3 2-bedders are sandwiched in the middle. We set them up. We went for a fairly high end. So we, nice bathrooms, nice fixtures and fittings. We went with a full bathroom in every unit. So a bath plus a freestanding shower. And then it's not just the sustainability measures and the renewable energy. We really target large bedrooms, generous living areas, really try to build good quality property. So you see, a vacant bedroom, it's a large bedroom. This is one of the 2-bedders that we actually had staged, and a nice living area, which is more than comfortable enough to fit, a dining area, table and chairs, plus a sofa. All the 2-bedders and the 3-bedders feature a second living area upstairs. And we also put some little small decks on there. So you've got that's a almost true north aspect. So you nice summer sun and some winter sun too. We put pergolas up to try and minimize the effect of the summer sun. And this is sort of the development from the frontage. Really tried to make it look nice. Those bricks are outrageously expensive, but they look great. And you can sort of see the size and scale of the properties. They are nice and neat. One thing I've done on almost every development is I tend to duplex and triplex units within the same site. It improves the thermal performance, but it also significantly improves your cost performance. So it's really hard to balance cost for building. And if you do all freestanding units, then you're just building a lot more external walls, eaves, gutters, downpipes, where if you duplex and triplex units within the same development site, you can really make some good cost savings.
Yeah, that's a good tip there.
Here's batteries. We went with Sonnen. These are pretty cool batteries. I would prefer Tesla. I drive a Tesla, but Sonnen actually have a better battery at the minute. They're what's considered a hybrid system. So the solar panels feed directly into the battery. So your typical solar setup is the solar DC feeds into an inverter. The inverter converts it from DC to AC. And then you use that energy in your home. If it needs to go into the battery, you actually have to convert it back from AC to DC. And each conversion has about a 7% loss of energy. So if you take it from solar, put it into the battery, and then go to use it in the house, you've almost lost 25% of your energy. where with this system, it actually feeds directly into the battery. So if it stores it in the battery, there's no energy loss. There's only an energy loss when you go to use the energy. So you're only losing one lot of energy. And that really, really affects return on investment. And also you have to generate more energy in order to store it and use it in the end, where this way you can actually generate less energy, which increases the potential.
So with each of this is one of those solar batteries in each of the garages, how much did one unit cost?
So the systems were $16,000 for the solar and battery. And the way we set them up, Cheryl, was, you can actually see from the aerial, we put one solar system on each unit. A lot of developments can be set up a lot simpler, and you basically put one great big solar system up there, and then it feeds the body corporate. The body corporate can sell it to the units and stuff like that. But I think the strata model, this development's in Lake Macquarie, which is fringed with Newcastle. People still have some trouble understanding what strata is. And so we set it up like this. So each unit has its own solar system, its own battery, its own electricity account. So basically, you could use a heap of energy and your neighbor could use not a lot. And therefore you could get the benefit of exporting that energy and selling it to the grid. Where your neighbor, if they use theirs, they use theirs. Where if it's communal, you're sort of you're sort of relying on other people doing, living efficiently. And that's why there's a lot of developments that I've seen that are ecological or environmentally friendly, and they're all about bike parking and herb growing and areas for composting, and that's all great. But it means nothing if your tenants or your occupiers aren't interested in doing any of that. It fails the minute that someone doesn't want to do it. Where that's why, from my perspective, I've focused on the hard elements, the built-in elements, so solar, battery, insulation, solar orientation, the things you need to get right at the start of the building process, because it means that it lives through the building rather than through the occupant.
That's a decent number of solar panels for each of these houses as well.
Yeah, it's a 5 kilowatt system, so that should generate,
that's plenty,
enough for most people. You got a 7.5 kilowatt hour battery, so that should be enough for nighttime usage. And what we also did is they've got let's see if I can find it should be in the garden. So these that tank on the left hand side is actually a heat pump tank. So there's a reclaim heat pump in there, which is fairly recent to the market. They use CO2 as their gas, so if it leaks, you're not leaking a refrigerant, because the refrigerant is CO2, so it doesn't have that great environmental impact. But the great thing with that is during the day you can heat that off of your solar system. It only uses 600 watts, so it's 1/5 of the electricity of a equivalent electric element heater. So that's basically a battery as well. You're heating your hot water during the day using solar rather than using great energy at night. So it's just we tried to do as much as we could to set it up sensibly. You can see in Lake Macquarie you only need 16 square meters for a 2-bed townhouse, but we went quite generous on the gardens as well. So the whole thing's set up to be nice and to show that you can do a good development.
You've got your fold out clothesline as well.
Yeah, the power lines. Yeah.
Yes. Like that.
Yeah, it's we're blessed with sun in this country. Why you would want to stick all your washing in the dryer is crazy.
So with that, do you have a dryer? I think it's a requirement. You have to have a dryer anyhow.
Not
do you?
No, you don't. Not in Lake Macquarie. We set the units up that you can stack above the washing machine. We always have enough clear space above the washing machine that you can stack a dryer if you want. But part of the package, we only supply the cooktop, dishwasher, and oven. Don't supply a dryer. Nor do we don't have to either. Not sure on basics how that dryers have ever factored in there. I've never had an issue with basics with any of our developments. So.
Dryers are terrible with energy efficiency anyhow. So I mean it's good. Like we've always used, personally a clothesline, and as much as possible avoid it of used as a dryer. So and let's go down to the actual insulation and walls and all. So
sure.
If you can talk us through, what you would normally expect in a standard townhouse compared, I mean, say, the standard's a six star.
Yeah.
Can you just walk us through what the difference is in terms of insulation and all of that to a
Sure.
7-star?
In order to achieve 6, it really depends on orientation, the size of your home, and there's a lot of factors feed into it. But you can probably get away in some instances with R1, which is pretty much the most minimum insulation you can get in your external wall, because by the time you add a brick veneer or cladding plus R1 insulation, you'll get enough. Often R1.5. The thickest you can fit in a 90mm frame without going to a foam product is R2.5. So we go with R2.5 because it's simple. You're literally just paying, there's no extra insulation cost. You're just paying for the extra insulation itself. And because it's not a high density product or a foam product, it's pretty cheap. The biggest thing that people don't do, which is crazy, Australians are obsessed with having garages. Where I come from, not so much. You park your car in the street and it's fine. Everyone does it. But a lot of garages, the garage door is not insulated. And if you walk into your garage in summer, it's hot, and winter, it's cold. But the Australians don't insulate the internal walls. So if you haven't insulated your garage wall, you've literally got 2 pieces of gyprock between a cold garage and a warm living area if you're heating it. So it's just a huge either heat gain, heat sink, or heat gain. So with our, and same with the ceiling. So, you know, your floor joists above that are typically not insulated in your garage. So we insulate the entirety of the garage.
And the garage door, did you put insulation pads as well? Is that what it is?
You can. In this development, we had a southern facing garage. We didn't really think it would have that huge an impact. And I had a chat with some sustainability experts that know a lot more than me. I'm a chemical engineer, could probably have calculated if I really want to, but they said unless you've got a northern facing garage that gets blasted by the heat, spend your money elsewhere. And that's what it comes back to. You know, you want to try and get as big a bang for your buck as possible. And people chase 10-star housing, but to be honest, I've had, you know, numerous discussions with people, you know, passive house 10-star ratings and things like that. And nowadays, instead of chasing an $80,000, you know, increase in cost sometimes to get to 10-star, are you better just throwing a big solar system, you know, 7-star air conditioner and a battery in there for $20,000? You can achieve the same effect or the same outcome by getting, you know, basically zero bill house. But yeah, so we did that, and then in the ceilings, people typically throw R2.5 or R3.5. That's sufficient. We just put R3.5 times 2 layers of R3.5 in all the ceiling areas. This development in Yorston Street, we went a stage further. I've got another one that I just finished in Warners Bay as well, same suburb, but over the other side of it. We double glazed it, and we put foam insulation in the ceilings. So we had a rake ceiling. It really, it's silly, but a 90mm frame, you can go so far. 150mm frame, you can go a lot further, but it's the 150mm frame that costs you a lot more money. Same in a rake ceiling. If you've just got 190 rafters, you can only fit so much insulation in a 190 rafter. So then you have to go to foam products simply to get it to work right. Yeah, but it's not complex.
With the foam product, is that similar to bats, or are you actually doing the spray foam?
No, it's a sandwich product. Yeah. So it's got an exterior hard layer, and then the foam's in the middle, and it's just basically a high density product. Okay. So we did that in Phoenix Drive over the other side of Lake Macquarie, of Warners Bay. But yeah, so I mean that's the insulation, and it's literally insulation is actually really cheap. It's, I think for all those units with the insulation, it was probably an extra $6,000 or $7,000 to basically almost double the insulation throughout the building. And we just had some of the people that moved in January. About 4 weeks ago, I was down at the development. We had a bit of an issue with some tannin weeping on the hardwoods, and I said, "Mate, this unit is unreal. It's so warm. We can't believe how warm it is. Like we're not having to put the air conditioner on, like, you know, on reverse cycle to warm it up. Like we put it on for 20 minutes and we're sweating, and we have to turn it back off. It just keeps the heat so well." And they sort of said to me, "You know, everything you said at the start about how these units were performing, you weren't lying." I'm like, "Well, I knew they were going to perform like this, but it's so hard to get that piece across." But yeah, the insulation is cheap and easy to do nowadays. Things like LED lighting is standard and so easy to do, although builders will still, if you go for the base package, you're going to be getting some sort of you know, halogen type cheaper product, some oyster light with a bulb in it. And then, you know, for us, really simple trade-off was we didn't put gas in the development, so we had no gas connection costs, no plumbing costs. We were able to push that money, back across to putting induction cooktops. We went through Harvey Norman commercial, which if you've done a few developments, you'll get in touch with Harvey Norman and buy all your appliances direct from them and give them to the builder, rather than the builder charging you $1,500 for an appliance that costs $400. So we bought everything direct from Harvey Norman, and you know, we got LV induction cooktops or Smeg induction cooktops for like the whole package, including the oven, the dishwasher, cooktop, and extraction hood, for probably what you'd pay for an induction cooktop down at Harvey Norman as a planter off the street. But yeah, so we were able to put all that money back in. But one thing sort of caught us up with that was Osgrid and the amount of energy that you have to then put on your application. It sounds silly, but they actually recommended, oh well, why don't you put gas cooktops in there? I'm like, because it's an all-electric development. We don't want gas.
We don't need gas.
But we're only going to give you a 70 amp 3-phase. And I'm like, well, that's going to push the development. And they went, that's your problem, not ours. So, and you see this with a lot of young developers. You know, they'll go and develop, and I recommend it. You go and develop in a suburb that has development going on, because you know that at least people are making the numbers work and the sites are working. I mean, as silly as it is, you could literally go and do exactly what your neighbor did, and as long as the market hasn't moved too much one way or the other, is you know, maybe they've got better pricing with the builder or the builder developer or whatever, but it should work. But that in itself is putting a lot of strain on the substations and Osgrid and the electrical supply. So it's it's easy, and then it gets hard once you go too much in the other direction. But yeah, and like insulation is as easy as it can be, LED lighting, things like that. Solar design, like just passive solar design, is the easiest thing you can do.
Talk us through that, what you guys did for yours. Do you have a floor plan? And in terms of, you know, show us the orientation of your site and what sort of decisions you made to make it sort of, you know, work with the solar orientation.
Oh, this is going to catch me out, Cheryl. This is my new laptop. Hold on a second. I'll have to go onto the
Sean Hayes says hello, Kurtis.
Hey Sean, how's it going, man?
Get him to put some solar panels on his developments.
We actually had a chat about this not long ago. Let's see. Why is the floor plan unavailable?
I noticed that you've got ceiling fans as well.
Yeah,
look, they're DC fans.
They're not. They're just AC fans, but it's why haven't you? There should be a floor plan for this. Why isn't there? Oh yeah, there is. All right, so you can see north there.
Got to share your page. Sorry.
Oh,
share your screen.
I unshared it, didn't I? Where are we? Here we go. So north is up this way.
All right. Yep.
So what we did, this unit here has a large shade tree, so it was protected pretty well from the eastern morning sun. Summer sun east can be harsh, and it has a lot of glass there and immediately above it. This unit gets shaded from there. This unit is basically all brick all around that side, so it doesn't have a great deal of eastern effect. And then on these units, we put the decks immediately above the back rear patio doors. So that actually, with high sun in the summer, it really protects it through the middle of the day. But yeah, I mean, passive solar design is pretty much just trying to make sure that you don't have large areas that can get hit with the sun through the day, and large windows getting that sun. I mean, windows, that's why, you know, castles used to have one tiny little window, because that's where you lose most of your heat, or you gain most of your heat. And it's also one of the most expensive areas to try and mitigate against with triple glazing. Well, double glazing and triple glazing in this country is just not common, so it's really expensive to try and fix that. So it's just so much easier to put your windows in areas that aren't really getting blasted by the sun. You got to be very careful with your site selection if you want to have smart solar design, because often it can just lead to having to drop units or drop back on site feasibility. Take it from 4 3-bedders to 2 2-bedders and 2 3-bedders in order to try and get that orientation a little bit better. But there's lots of stuff you can do, and there's guys like on my Phoenix Drive development over the other side of Warners Bay. I had Dick Clark design that for me. He's outrageously reputable in the sustainable design area. I'm part of my efficient electric home group on Facebook as well, and look, there's so much good information in there, and there's Jenny Edwards is another one. There's experts, and you can engage them, and she's already said to me, look, I love what you did with that development. Next time, come see me and we'll work on getting 8-star out of exactly what you put in that. I reckon I can get you to 8-star. So
that's exciting.
It is, and it for all the money you'd spend or perhaps lose on mucking around with units because you're trying to do it yourself, there's experts out there that can help you that have just got so much more knowledge than you could ever accumulate in a lifetime.
And we're going to have one on next week.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Simone, and I'm pretty sure she's an architect. And she recently wrote an article about sort of, how 6-star isn't necessarily meaning you're doing a good thing.
You're literally being compliant.
Yes.
You're doing what you have to do, otherwise you wouldn't get the tick of approval with your construction certificate.
Correct. So with this, did you also test in terms of, and the term sort of, I've just lost it now, the heat loss and all of that? There's a way to test whether it's sealed, like the house is.
Yeah, airtightness. That's a whole different thing, and it's more trending towards passive house in terms of the amount of, like, you can insulate really well, but if your building isn't very well sealed up, then the air from outside can literally come in at whatever temperature it's at. We didn't, and that's, I think in order to ensure that that's been done correctly, you got to be on site an awful lot. It comes down to basically walking around with a caulking gun and siliconing every bit of every frame on the ground and making sure that there's no gaps, and then making sure that all your silicon beads at the bottom of every piece of architrave and tile throughout the whole development is perfect. I don't think building in Australia is at that standard, and I think if you got on site with a builder and were doing that to them, they wouldn't be real pleased. So it's something that I'd like to work towards, but also I guess goes back to my previous comment in being, if you get a building performing to that standard, is it better to do it to that standard, or is it better to put extra solar battery and some active heating and cooling? Like smart orientation design, passive design, and solar battery and some active cooling and heating can get you most of that way there. And there's actually an article on Renew, I think a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, that talked about where's that line, and with solar and battery becoming so much cheaper, should you be chasing 10-star and passive house, or should you be trying to get to 8-star? Where's the economical sensible part?
Sure, because I mean, like, say for example, we got a whole lot of, our solar panels put in, and we're like, oh, we can turn on the heater now. We can do our laundry during the day. We don't have to wait till 10 p.m. And that's when you're like, oh, okay, well then, does that mean it allows us to use our appliances or heating and cooling a lot more, which makes it more comfortable as well?
And that's part of the whole paradigm of the energy market in Australia. So for many years, what it was designed, this base load is a fallacy. It doesn't actually exist. It's more base supply rather than base demand. It was built around assets that are used to producing all the time. So in order to smooth that out, you can't have assets produce all the time for 8 hours a day. It's more sensible to split your demand into chunks of 3, so that you've got assets that can produce 24 hours a day, because that's what they like to do. But fortunately for us, and it's part of the whole solar, sun doesn't shine all the time, and the wind doesn't blow all the time. Well, actually it does. If the sun stops shining when we expect it to shine, we're in trouble. If the wind doesn't blow where we expect it to blow again, we're in trouble. We've got very reliable forecast data that tells us exactly where that happens. But you had all this load shifting. Hot water was always set exactly what you're saying, off peak. So it was set after 10 p.m. because everyone goes to bed. No one's using any energy. So that's when coal-fired generation stations are still burning coal, and it's really expensive to ramp them down. It's really expensive to ramp them up. So a lot of that energy now, as you've just done with your solar, actually gets pulled off of the grid from nighttime to daytime because your solar is providing it. And that's a lot of the really interesting data from my perspective as a chemical engineer, having worked in studied power generation assets for a number of years. It's really interesting because they actually think we've hit peak demand on our grid. It shouldn't ever go up, even with things like electric vehicles, because our small scale behind the meter generation is moving a lot quicker than what the other sources demand are picking up. So you're basically getting supply exceeding new demand, new supply exceeding new demand, which is really interesting. But yeah, look, that's a much wider discussion. But exactly what you said and what I said about the hot water, with a heat pump, it heats during the day and you've got hot water. And if you do happen to need it at night, it's using 600 watts. It's next to nothing. It's 1/5 of your kettle boiling. So it's a whole different way of thinking. And solar's getting so cheap, and batteries will go that way. Like these systems and these units were expensive, but they'll get a whole lot.
I think I'm pretty sure they recently announced, and I think it's in the Hunter Valley, or Hunter region, that they are rolling out. For rebates, and I'm not sure. I can't recall how much it is.
I think it's fairly reasonable. It's $6,000 or $7,000 or something. I can't remember.
It's almost half the cost of a battery.
Yeah, natural solar that installed those systems are one of the accredited installers for that. So we actually set up with them to do the next development, which is 11 units. So we've had that one on the market for a while. We basically announced it in August 18, right when Sydney capitulated. So,
good time.
It was shocking time to put a development on the market. And just went, I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, and then every week or two we get someone red hot and interested, but that backs off because they don't want to be the first person. No one ever wants to be the first. But once you get one, then you get two, then you get three, and on you go. But and then we actually had 3 offers of full asking price at the end of February on that development, and then the pandemic hit, so they all backed out. But anyway, it's the life of a developer.
So tell me about I guess the selling of the units. And the type of people that have purchased, well, not when I say type, but the people that have been drawn to this.
What we've found at the minute is the 2 people that bought, and we've sold another unit, but it hasn't settled yet. The 2 people that bought in Yorkson Street were retirees, because with the sun and battery, you can actually bundle that up into a fixed price arrangement. So you pay $30 a month, and that's it. You have no electricity bill apart from a fixed fee of $30 a month. And it comes with a really generous, like I think it's 7,000 or 8,000 kilowatt hours per year, outside of the solar system. So you basically hand the system over to Sonnen to control, so that they can sell energy back into the grid whenever there's a big call on the grid, and they make a heap of money doing that, linking them up through virtual power plants. But that was pretty cool, and people were really attracted to that. But I actually think if you're a low energy user, like an efficient household, you're better off just operating it on your own instead, selling your electricity back to the grid. There's programs that do that now. I think think of the name. I'll think of it later. But yeah, there's a program that you can actually dial into, and they'll you can be benefited by turning off appliances, turning off your air conditioner, and reducing your load, or selling your solar back to the grid. I'll think of it later. But yeah, there's several applications that you can do that with nowadays. But yeah, where was I going with that? I lost my thing.
So we're talking about the buyers. So is that?
It was fixed cost of living was really attractive to them.
Okay.
And then they kind of understood the thermal efficiency side of it, but they they didn't really believe it until they moved in and experienced it and went,
Mm,
wow, you know,
mm.
we didn't think everything you were saying about the insulation and the orientation and the design would
Make a
like they
big
even
difference.
the tree that I left in their front garden, they even argued with me that they wanted it removed, and then they moved in and went, oh, we love that tree, and I went, so you don't want me to cut it down? No, no, you can keep it, because they actually understood the exact reason why we'd left it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we found, and all the offers that we had at Marks Point, at 7 Marks Point Road, they were all again retirees,
Okay.
seeming to seek that lower cost of living. We had thought it would be first home buyers and people that were sort of in a younger generation that understood solar, battery, thermal efficiency, maybe
Mm,
not understood a little bit more, but it had more exposure to it.
mm.
But we haven't found that at all.
So did you think with the buyers, they were attracted to it at first point because of the price, or because that it had all the other bells and whistles for sustainability?
We didn't really price them much more than our competitors, so it was an easy sell for the agent in term of, well, here's a unit. Because people would come in and go, oh, but we've looked at this one up the street. And they'll go, oh, yeah, well, there's the brochure for that one. And we've looked at that one. And this is the size of that unit. And this is the size of this unit. And we're bigger. And we know that. And basically talk them through this. They're small difference in price, maybe $30,000. But for instance, with a development down the street, they were 2-on-1. So they had one bathroom where we had two. And our ensuite was bigger than their bathroom. We had two living areas. They had one. We had a bigger garden. And he's, by the time you price per square meter of a garden, it's at least what you've paid for the site plus all the approvals and everything else. So he's like, you're getting that value in your garden. There's an extra $20,000 worth of garden right there. Oh, but 20,000 for a garden. He's like, no, seriously, for the square meters of land that you're getting, and then basically you've got solar, battery, thermal efficiency all on top. And that's. I don't like getting to the end of a development and having units to sell, so I try and make the agent's job as easy as possible. But yeah, but then literally you still get those people that go, but they're 590 and you're 620. I'm buying the one at 590, and you say, well, okay, I can't cut my price that much. I mean, you will discount and do other things depending on the market environment, but purely because your competitor's cheaper in the exactly same environment.
Yeah.
There's no point. You'll get someone that will understand the sheer benefit that they're getting out of like on those. We're probably getting our money back on the solar and battery, but we're not making anything on it.
Yeah. I'd say you're right what you say about you don't realize the difference until you've lived in a property which is more thermal efficient.
Yeah, the funny thing has been, because we hadn't sold all of the units, people that have come to look at the units have actually been able to meet, because they're both retired and they're there most of the time, the front and back neighbor.
Yeah.
And they tell them how wonderful I am as a developer. But they also get to tell them just how great the units are and what it actually is like to live in, and how enjoyable it is just to not have to have the AC blasting either hot or cold all day long. Because I suffer with allergies, but my eyes dry out really badly with air conditioning, so it's not pleasant. I know a lot of people have that issue as well. Some people have their eyes water, some people have their eyes dry, because air conditioners naturally, because of how they perform, are dehumidifiers. They take the moisture out of the air, so it's not pleasant to have your house.
And the heat and heating it in winter is not necessarily pleasant as well, because it dries out the air. Khalid, who is a finance broker, has just noted as well, not forgetting that 7-star energy rated homes can get better interest rates.
Yeah, and we actually have put that on some of our marketing. But again, I don't know, people can't seem to do the half a percent saving on their interest rate, and just how much of a difference that's going to be. It'd be interesting for Khalid if he could comment on whether or not that's, because my understanding of Clean Energy Finance Company program was that it was through a limited number of lenders.
So I think one is it Australia?
South Australia Bank or something like that.
Australia Bank. And that's a big difference. I mean, 0.5%.
Oh yeah. Oh, over the life of a loan, that's years in some cases. But yeah, we yeah, we find lots of different things with who was
Bank
interested in buying
Australia.
them.
Bank
Banks,
Australia. That's it.
yeah,
I was close.
yeah,
Yeah.
got the right words.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, what else can I talk about? The process itself was interesting. It's hard to explain to the bank why you're effectively trying to make less money out of a development, because effectively that's what happens.
Yes.
It your notional, I guess, the gross amount doesn't change, but the percentages do. Because you end up basically selling the units for what you're putting the extra in. Because it isn't seen as a benefit just yet. People don't realize, well, once it's built, to add extra insulation, for instance, or to go and replace all of your lighting costs this much, but doing it now costs that much. So there's a real tangible benefit to doing it during construction. And yeah, I think yeah, that was interesting. But look, I've got enough experience as a developer, with enough projects under my belt, and I had a joint venture partner in that project who's got a great I guess professional history, good earning capacity. So we struggle with NAB and Commonwealth, couldn't get them over the line, but we ended up going with Latrobe, which was expensive. And I wouldn't do it again. I'd rather bring another investor in, which I offered both NAB and Commonwealth, and they said no. I was happy to just carve off another piece and bring another investor in and add more liquidity effectively. But they were sort of ardently stuck on 2 units.
Pre-sales?
Yeah, they wanted 2 off plan, and it was crazy because our net position in that development was probably 1.2 million at the end on 4 townhouses, worth 2.5 million, so less than 50% loan to value.
Yeah.
Between the 2 of us, we could probably service a loan 5 times over. So it was just it was painful. We lost probably 6 or 8 months, which then and this is the thing that I think a lot of developers don't appreciate. They think, let's keep shopping and shopping and shopping. Shop a builder, shop another builder, get 15 builders quotes, and go to 9 different brokers and just keep on going. But it eats away time. And sometimes a cash heavy approach with easier leverage means that you do the development quicker and your turnover is quicker, and quicker turnover generally leads to more profit over the long term, which is adjusting my approach for future developments. I hadn't ever had trouble with finance. This was the first one, and we didn't have trouble. We got it funded in the end. It just took us a lot longer than what we had anticipated, and we had a lengthy delay through council. They told me 6 weeks and ended up being 9 months. Got into a fight over the width of the driveway. You can see in the pictures just how outrageously wide my driveway is.
I did notice that. I was like, that's a lot of room.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't give me the 150 mil that you're allowed to reverse over the curb, and then even below the what is it, 1428? No, that's disabled code. 2029, whatever it is. Has a buffer built into that standard sedan that they use. They actually wanted, and they made us draw another 100 mil on the outside of the template showing that we could still clear it. And I'm like, So yeah, I lost 7 square meters of floor area in the bottom of the units in each unit, which made them, they're still generous units, but it made them smaller than what I would like them to have been. But
well, it will be interesting to follow your next journey in terms of delivering the 8-star town. Are they going to be townhouses as well?
Yeah, look, my townhouses, I guess I went and did a dual occupancy and nearly lost money in the thing, so I'm not. People can do them really well. I'm just going to leave myself out of that game. Dual ocks work brilliantly for some people, but I had a crack and just about got my money back. I think I haven't sold one of the properties. I haven't sold the other yet, but I'll probably pay my costs of borrowing and get out of there with my cash, which will be fine. It's a lesson learned and on you go. But I seem to have a real knack for townhouses, and it sort of feeds into what I like to do, which is not use more land. We've got enough land developed, in my opinion. We should just, we've got percentages of our population. When you're young, share housing is great. As you mature a bit, you can move into bigger housing, in terms of a bit of a block of land, a bit of a garden, and then you can go into a townhouse, and then you can go into an apartment and move through the phases of life. Where in this country, we seem to have a lot of people hanging on to their family home until they die, which means that stock isn't available for other people to live in, and therefore we keep developing more and more land, and it generally, because it's the fringes of our cities, those were generally farming areas a lot of the time. We're not using bad land to develop, we're actually using quite good land. You see a lot of farms being developed. So I'd encourage anyone they can to do townhouse development.
To do infill developments where you're utilizing big backyards and
exactly. And splitters are awesome investments. If you can, I did a 4 townhouse project in Wallsend. We sold those units at 485 and made, I think that project was probably 28% profit on cost, which for townhouse development's great. It depends how you calculate your profit on cost. I mean, people calculate it differently, but we bought a 1,200 square meter block with a house in the front, cut the house off and put 4 townhouses behind it. Took a bit of foresight and a bit of thought. We had to actually demolish the garage, which was part of the house.
Yes.
But
to make way for the driveway to the back.
Yeah, exactly. And in Newcastle, where we did that one, they want 4.5 meters, and your typical garage is only 3. So we were lucky that it was a 3.5 meter garage with a 1 meter offset that we literally got the 4498 to the boundary, to the edge of the house, and they let it through. But they can relax it, but that's one that they do like to enforce with infill development. But it's just a smarter way of doing things. If you can save the house, great. If you can't, knock it down and move on. There's a lot of property that just isn't fit for purpose anymore, and as much as I'd like to see the houses be retained from a sustainability perspective, sometimes you just got to admit that you're flogging a dead horse with that and move on, and introduce new buildings.
New buildings, maybe smaller floor plans that are more suited for use, particularly if you're talking about and in that area, say Warners Bay, you're probably noticing a lot of downsizes. And
it's pretty much, we used to have even Stevens. Half of it was investors and the other half was downsizing owner occupiers. And that's why, if you go around, if you do any research on there, if anyone's interested, almost all the 1,000 square meter blocks were developed as 4 townhouses, all 3 bedders, 1 bedroom downstairs, 2 bedrooms upstairs. It was almost the exclusive model. They were literally just pegging straight for downsizers. And my wife's grandma is 88, 89, still lives in the house upstairs, goes up the stairs every day. I don't get what people think when you lose the use of your limbs, but it's not at 55 and it's not at 65 where it shouldn't be. If you're staying fit and active and healthy, you should at least be able to go up the stairs, hopefully into your 70s and 80s, and in which case you go to the care home after that. You don't go to an apartment. But that is a really common model in that whole area. But we were able to tap into that at the same time. Downsizers are typically retirees, and they typically have a fixed budget, and therefore with the sun and the natural solar package that we put together, people can have that $30 a month fixed price energy, which is great for a lot of people.
That's fantastic. So it would be really great. I think there'll be some people that want to have a bit more of a squiz of the floor plans and things like that. Were you able to find your listing?
I was, of course I was. Just this is, I'll put all 3 in there. This is for one of the townhouses in that development that we still have on market, which is Yorston Street.
So what are the prices of the remaining 2?
We've got the terraced unit. So there's one unit which is part of the triplex, and we dropped it $10,000, so it's at $620. And then I'd
buy that with all the solar and the batteries and
it's a pretty
power up the Tesla.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal. The other development that we did in Warners Bay is at Phoenix Drive, and I really liked that it was going to be Phoenix Drive, just rising from the ashes and sort of doing a new property in an old subdivision, old area.
I like that.
So with that one, it's got double glazing, a much bigger solar system, 7.5 kilowatt hour solar system, 10 kilowatt hour battery. and it's got a really neat floor plan, bigger than the townhouses, obviously, and it's also Torrance titled and on its own block. That one, the agent has put developer says sell on it because I want the thing gone. I want to get on to my next development.
So is this just the one that's available?
Yeah, so that was the dual lock that I did.
Okay. Yeah.
Which
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a lovely home. We had originally thought we would probably live in that.
Okay.
Simply because we live up the coast at the minute in Crescent Head. If anyone knows it, it's a beautiful spot. But we were planning on possibly moving back down to Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
We're up here because we're closer to family, but we've sort of, because I've got all my cash in property development, and we're still enjoying the low cost price of living up here. And then
being so close to the water too.
Hold on a second. Sorry, I was sending those to Todd's phone. First time using Zoom for everyone.
Todd, you better put an offer down for that one.
Yeah, that was just for Todd. Hold on a second, I'll get the other one.
So this, I'm going to pop this on the Facebook group as well. At the moment, Kurtis is sharing them in the chat. But hold on, I'm going to copy them and open these. So anyone that's interested to have a good bit of a look at, you know, where these are, floor plans, looking at your next development spot, borrow some ideas.
Yeah, look, I'm happy
well.
for anyone to rip off anything that relates to sustainability. The one at Phoenix Drive there, Cheryl, those nice black windows are all double glazed.
Yeah.
That cost a fortune, but anyway, and the rake ceiling area, which just opens up such a nice living area. It we use the foam insulation product in there, which cost maybe $2,000 more for that whole area, which is not much considering that'll probably have an energy payback in about 4 or 5 years of even that. But yeah, the Marks Point development is the one that's next. It's 11 units, so that'll be a bit of an interesting step up for me, but certainly a lot simpler than my 7 townhouse project, which involved 4 lots of land and 3 subdivisions and acquiring a laneway and all sorts of nightmares. But
well, that's going to be that's currently for sale off the plan.
Correct. Yeah. So we've got that's the 3-bed unit. We've got 6 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garages in that development, which is 11 units, and then we've got the outdoor render with a nice barbecue area and the brick wall. We put built-in barbecues and all them, so there actually is gas in that development because I put gas barbecues in there, but everything else is all electric. Those units are 3-bed with a single garage. So the 322s are 630 to 645 depending on which one you pick. The 321s are about 600, and we have 2 little investor specials, which are 2-bed units with, again, double bathroom, single garage at 560. So they're all really nice products. I had a local architect, Kill O'Connell, who's awesome, great to work with. If you're ever doing anything in Newcastle, I'd certainly recommend. Actually, no, I don't want to recommend her. She's too busy. I keep encouraging her to grow her practice, but yeah, she works on 170 apartment buildings, real big stuff. But then she works in the niche little townhouse space as well. So she put that together for us.
Yeah, fantastic.
And yeah, those ones again, same package with the solar battery insulation. In fact, if that development works out a little bit better, we might go a little bit further. Just depends on how it all comes together. Once I'm happy with the amount of money I'm making out of it, I'll just tend to put the money back into the development itself. So, and
that's great. I'd like to congratulate you as well for, like I said, paving the way, because it is something that a lot of not a lot of developers are considering because of the return on investment. And often, it's not necessarily the case. If the numbers still sort of work well and you can afford to put it in, I think it is becoming something, particularly with popularity of electric cars, and and how cheap you can get solar these days as well. And pretty
Yeah, I
soon
mean,
we're going to be rolling out those rebates for the batteries.
yeah, you don't have to put batteries in there. I mean, that is a seriously nice to have item. Like
Mm,
it's on a nice to have list. I'll do that later. Pretty much the batteries would have been almost half of the sustainability package that we put in those units. But for me personally, it's really important. I've got a lot of friends and family that just say, "I'll wait until they're cheaper." If everyone waits until they're cheaper, it won't happen. You gotta pioneer, be part of the first, early adopter sort of crop.
mhm.
And so if you've got the money and the wealth and the opportunity to support these things, you should.
Yeah.
And a lot of developers, one thing that I think so many people miss is it's good to be different. It's good
Mm,
to offer people something that old mate down the street, because almost every area you're developing in, there's several other developments, and it's literally, if it's the cheapest build that you could get and it was the most units that you could get on the site, and you've got the tightest floor plates of anyone there, you're just amongst them.
mm,
It's
mm.
literally the only segregation is price. But if you can charge 10 grand more and put a nice solar system, a bit of extra insulation, you don't have to go all electric, but I think you should. But if you can just do those couple of things, it actually just makes a point of difference, and it might get someone interested in talking to you, and then they go, you know what, you're actually a bit different. I'll
Mm.
buy you from you, or from your real estate agent. And even if you don't increase your price by $10,000, but you put $10,000 worth of extra inclusions in there, it's a whole lot better than discounting by 5% in order to get your pre-sales.
Yeah.
People don't appreciate that either. They sort of just knock 5% off to get the pre-sales going, where if you put a different package together, you might be able to not discount and
Mm,
get closer to your final asking prices for them. So there's different opportunities, or cheaper than throwing a 10 grand furniture package in. All these
yeah.
little gimmicky things that developers do to try and encourage sales. Some people throw in cars with really expensive units. But this is a different way of doing it. And I guess it depends how you attribute value in your own mind. But
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I thought that was really fascinating, and it's great to be able to see just the simple things you're able to add to a project,
mm,
that we all should be thinking about. I've got a project happening at the moment, and we're looking at the solar. We're looking at where we put in the battery packs as well. So if anyone's got any questions, feel free to pop it on the Facebook page. And Kurtis, the recording will be on. Adam, are you sharing your screen? I can't see your shared screen. Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm gonna pop some articles as well, from Natural Solar that referred to this development. And
Cheryl, I
also,
also put the articles in from the Newcastle Herald and Renew. If anyone
okay,
doesn't know what Renew is, it's all about efficient design, renewable energy.
I love Renew.
Yeah, and Sanctuary as well. They're both good.
Yes, all the
They're
houses
both
in there are beautiful.
yeah. Oh, those yeah, they have a shocking amount of money. Some people that do some of those, it's sort of worthy of grand designs, to be honest. A lot of them, but um,
Excellent. Well, thank you again. Kurtis, you and I are going to, and I'm just going to put it out there, we are going to get Brendan from the Cape
yep,
to
Brendan Conlon.
feature, to have a chat on
Yeah,
here.
good.
I met him in Newcastle about 2 years, or I think about a year and a half ago.
Would that have been
Um,
at Jay Bolton's thing?
yes, it
Yeah, I missed
was.
that. I missed that, and I was pissed that I missed it. I can't
Well,
can't can't
I've
remember what I
invited
was
Jay.
doing.
I've invited Jay to come and have a chat with us on the business of property, and
Yeah,
I will reach out to Brendan again,
yeah,
because I think it's so cool what he's done.
yeah.
Um,
Jay's awesome, and Brendan. Yeah, he's a brilliant advocate for anyone trying to do anything in this space. And yeah, Jay and I are planning a road trip down the Tesla to go see the Cape and
oh,
understand
fabulous!
a little bit more what it's all about. But yeah, like I think Yeah, for me, development is just about looking at what went before and being better. And this is definitely one of the ways that we can be better. And if no one does it, it just won't happen. Where if we all start doing it at least a little bit, it becomes a standard, and then we can all recover the dollars that we do like to recover. No one likes to do development just for the fun of it. We're here to make money, but we don't have to make all of the money. You know, we can make plenty and enjoy what we're doing, and actually put some property out there that you know, in 20 years time, someone isn't going to look at it and go, what were they thinking? They built it in 2020 and they didn't have solar on there. I mean, are they idiots? You know. So yeah, it's just about leaving a bit of a legacy that's a bit more positive than what went before us.
I think it's great. Well done. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Kurtis, so much for sharing your time, and for everyone for tuning in. Were there any questions? Richard, Todd, thanks for joining the chat room. I know a few people are on the Facebook page. So if you've got any questions, like I said, hop on the Facebook page. You might have a few questions there for you, Kurtis. And I've also put in links to some of your properties. I don't think I've put in the ones for Marks Point and Warners Bay for Phoenix Drive, but I don't have the one for hold on,
Yorkson Street.
Oh, domain.
Yeah, I can pop it in if you want.
Yeah, I've got it there. All right, I'm going to add this to the Facebook page as well.
And did you get the other articles, Cheryl? I can pop those in if you like.
Yeah. Anyone that's keen to, what's the best way if people want to have a chat, connect with you?
They can just hit me up on Facebook or send me a. I think my website has an email address for me.
Okey-dokey.
Just send me. People just send me something on Facebook. I'll get in touch. I like to. The one thing I've always liked to do, Richard will attest to this, is I don't like other people making mistakes if I've made them myself. So like to always try and help people out and steer them in the right direction. And I never make any money out of referrals or anything like that. It's just done because I want to see other people succeed, especially if I can influence them and they do something good for the environment with their development. That's enough payment for me. I'm really happy for people to do that. So
that's great.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with people if they have any specific questions or need any help with it, or even if they've just got. I've made a lot of errors in my time. Bad business partnerships, bad joint ventures, bad site selection, bad due diligence, naivety at play with a lot of it, and but also I guess a gut full of excitement and wanting just to charge in and not take that breath that people should really take. So always happy to help young developers as well. I'm young enough myself, but I've got enough war wounds in development to certainly help try and steer people in the better direction, not necessarily the right direction, but certainly a better one.
An enlightened direction, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you so much for sharing. It was really such a pleasure, and keep us posted on your next developments and how you go. We'd love to feature you again to be able to, showcase your 11 townhouse development and your 8-star townhouse development.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to both of those. The 8-star one doesn't exist quite yet, but the 11 is in its infancy, but I can't wait to get that one out of the ground, that's for sure.
Good stuff. Well, thank you. Good night to everyone, and we'll have a catch up again soon, Kurtis.
Awesome.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Cheryl.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.